Thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm delighted to introduce David Maddison from HSBC. David is the Associate Director for the Retail and Leisure sector at HSBC. David spends much of his time looking into the retail sector in a lot of detail, and I'm sure you're kept very, very busy with all the changes taking place in this rather volatile VUCA environment that we operate in.
It's been a very busy couple of years now.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know, for you, those of you who don't know, just a few hours ago, our Chancellor resigned, less than 4 weeks before our budget's about to be announced. So highlights our VUCA world we operate in.
Yes.
So, David, you've spent the last 3 weeks traveling around the country, sharing insights from Christmas 2019. I think it's a great opportunity to kick off today's session, to be able to share some of those insights with us.
No, definitely. Just to give you a bit of context, I cover the corporate finance side of retailers and have a helicopter view of the industry, which we lend a lot of money to, so we have a vested interest in the success of the industry. And hence why we've been around the country the past 2-3 weeks, delivering our updates on the industry to our frontline bankers to give them the information and skills, hopefully, to manage some of that risk in the coming 12 months, because there is a lot of risk out there, which we will get on to talk about. But the key messages that we saw from Q4, or the key winners, were online, continued to smash it out of the park. Your Boohoo's, 44%. Admittedly, that was down from 100% 2 years before that, but 44% still pretty impressive nonetheless. The value side of retail, which I guess it isn't surprising, but like your B&M's, your Home Bargains, your Aldi's, your Lidl's, the UK population is no longer ashamed to shop in value stores. If anything, it's sensible. If you're not doing it, you're just throwing money away. So great to see those doing well. And then what was interesting was the high street, really polarised. So you see the likes of, W.S. Smith, the travel business, doing really well, Hotel Chocolat doing really well. But on the flip side, which is really interesting to see, was the ones that weren't doing well. It's like your super dries, who were down 18% year on year for sales over the Q4 period, Moss Bros down, and Quiz Clothing. But the interesting point being is the fact that sales were down, but they were on purpose going down, because they were channeling or heading towards profitable channels. So they weren't going after the sales. Anybody can buy a sale. You can literally discount your stuff at 50%, you'll get a sale. But they were looking at profitable channels and profitable customers. So while sales were down, the gross margin was up, which is the key message. So they did that. All three of those retailers did that. 2020 is all about reorganizing that cost base then, because it's all getting that gross margin. Oh, that's great. But ultimately, you still need to make money. So you need to decrease the size of your cost base and eventually become a sustainable retailer. So those are the three key themes that we saw. And then the last one, really, which is across multiple different retailers, is sustainability and purpose. So it's a big topic at the minute. It has been for the last 12 months. Hopefully it will be going forward. But it was good to see the likes of Hobbycraft, where you make your own, presents or wrapping paper or whatever, doing really well. Lush, obviously, Lush is one of the first movers in this 20 years ago. Why do Lush shops smell so much? It's not because they're pumping fake air into it, it's because they don't wrap the products in plastic or anything else. It's literally natural, organic products. Just a lot of people don't realise that because they spend absolutely nothing on marketing. Yeah.
And what did you see a shift in the Black Friday sales compared to previous years? How did that fare in 2019?
So Black Friday this year was the first year where it outstripped Christmas sales in terms of the total number of sales going through the tills, and that's an anomaly in our eyes, to be honest. Obviously, Black Friday was on the 29th, it's pretty much the latest it could be, which pulled sales from November into December. But also what was interesting, Black Friday is usually your blokes buying for themselves, selfishly. But because it was later on, it became almost a women's event as well, where they were doing proactive spending for Christmas, sensibly. And then it wasn't just Black Friday and Cyber Monday, it wasn't just Black Friday week and Cyber Monday week, it was Black November. So pretty much everybody had a discount on throughout the whole period, which is why I think the sales outstripped Christmas time. But I don't think that's going to be a future trend. I think that was just because of the timing of Black Friday.
Excellent. Thanks for that. So we've looked at Christmas 19. Let's turn our attention now to 2020. What are some of the key trends we are expecting to see in 2020, and what can our retailers do to really capitalize on those trends?
So I've got 5 trends really that we think are going to help retailers grow this year. The overarching trend, I think, 2019 was a year of not stability, but it was, the BRC said it was the worst year on record, okay, for sales. Everybody knows that. But if you look at the numbers, you look at the number of stores closing, you look at the number of employees getting sacked, you look at the number of retailers going to administration, it was the same as 2018, so it was a flat year. So we think this year, 2020, is going to be stabilisation and a bit of growth, a little bit of growth, hopefully. The one spanner in the works is one thing that I'm spending a lot of time on at the minute is the coronavirus, which some of you guys will know about it through impacting your business, but specifically looking at the retail industry, it has 2 impacts. It's got it from the consumer perspective. You look at the likes of Bicester Village, Ghost Town, you look at maybe some of the premium luxury retailers. Burberry put a warning out last week or the week before about impacting sales. So you've got the consumer impact if you've got a big Chinese demographic in the sales. But then you've also got the supply chain, which is where it's not immediately a concern. But in, say, 2 to 4 weeks, you might start reading about it a little bit more. You might see it even, where some retailers maybe, I'm not going to say clothing and apparel retailers, because arguably if you've got a Chinese supply base, you can probably shift it with a little bit of help to Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, India, somewhere like that. But if you've got consumer electronics or general merchandise and you're sourcing 100% from China, it's an issue. And over the last 2-3 weeks, I've spoken to probably nigh on 100 customers, and that's the number one topic on their mind. Admittedly, these are more in the MME space, not so much the large corporates who can demand that their suppliers source from somewhere else. But some of these only have 4 weeks of stock. China's closed down for an extra week, that's 2 weeks. Yes, some of them are bought ahead of Chinese New Year, but in 2 weeks' time, you're either going to have empty shelves for some of these products, or you're going to see prices start to rise. And that's one way of slowing stock. But it's a waiting game. Is there a mitigant to this? In some cases, there isn't. And that's an issue, especially when you're a bank and you're funding these guys. You think, well, you can get it from somewhere else. You can't. So it wait and see. It's one to watch. That's, I think, the biggest immediate trend. Onto the 5 trends that we think that are going to see the industry grow. Exclusivity of product. So some great retailers out there that sell something that nobody else sells. Sounds simple enough, but a lot of retailers will sell the same item and it becomes a commodity then, and it's a race to the bottom. But if you're a JD Sports, for example, the king of trainers, or you're an N Clothing where people will literally queue outside for days waiting for a product drop, like that generates demand and people will go there to shop, and you'll see their sales rocket off the back of that. So that's one thing that we've seen. Exclusivity, just said that. The purpose. So the purpose is almost as much as important as product. So actually saying what your product is about, what your retail business is about. Is it about sustainability? Is it about the environment? That's just something we've seen a lot of. Like you saw Veil trainers, Meghan Markle wore them, vegan trainers, bang, it exploded. Like this little French Parisian brand is killing it now. Admittedly, it helps that Meghan Markle wore the trainers, but the vegan aspect is definitely something to pay attention to as well. I bet that helped the sales. Selfridges, they've been doing it for a long time now. They've got the, I think, Vestiaire Collective. Hands up, we've heard of these guys, hopefully. Yeah, all the girls, yeah. Not your average second-hand store, but they were the first one to put a permanent second-hand store inside of the department store. And you see this place, it's a small little concession, but they'll sell every item of stock in there within 7 days. And this isn't your average stock. This is a Hermes handbag for 15 grand. It's not your average second-hand shop, but it's just something that they're doing to keep the finger on the pulse. And that leads me on to experience, like being experienced. I hate the word experiential, but Selfridges, Harrods, these Fortnum Masons just do it down to a T. You go there for an experience. You don't just go there to shop, pick something up, click and collect. You go there, they've got the cinema, they've got restaurants, bars. They've got the collaboration section. It's just a really interesting place to go to. Convenience, everything needs to be convenient, and that ultimately means online. Like, nobody likes shopping online, but it's just convenient. So if you can make the transition between online to offline and make it convenient, that's going to help you grow.
Thanks very much for that. So I think I'm just watching the clock at the moment.
Sorry, the last one was value. Yeah, sorry, the fifth one was value. That doesn't mean cheap, just value for money. Okay, that's going to help you grow.
Excellent. Thanks for that. So just, I guess, using your crystal ball, looking ahead 10 years, what do you think the key changes are going to be in the retail sector? Just some exciting changes that you see coming.
So a lot of it isn't exciting to you guys because you're at the front end, you're the consumer. But something that we're seeing more and more often, and you'll hear it more and more often, is the automation side of things. So your DCs, you can go around. I'll not name the retailers, but some of them. Well, I will name one, Ocado. Like, you look at Ocado's warehouse, you look on the look at the website, look at the video. It doesn't even look real. It's that futuristic. Like, literally, there's nobody there apart from this machine going around picking products. It's amazing. And then it's been translated into other DCs for non-perishable goods, where you'll have a 10-story unit which automatically picks it, and then you've got a picker at the bottom who then just puts it into another conveyor belt. It goes off and it's delivered. It's just efficiencies, all about efficiencies and automation. Eventually, that will then come into the front side of it, and that's where things get exciting. That's where you're going to see, like, is it the Samsung store in King's Cross, which you can't even buy anything there. Like, that's, to me, bonkers, but that's the way the world's going. It's more of an advertisement for your product, experience the product, buy into the product, and then buy it at home. And if you buy it on the way home, by the time you get there, it'll be home. Like, that's the future, uber convenience. But at the minute, e-commerce sales have kind of flatlined, or a 30% penetration on non-food sales. That next uplift is hopefully going to come through, we call it e-commerce 3.0, but the next round of tech, that will hopefully get that up there. But what that is, if it's 5G, that, like, the connectivity of everything, and that then pump sales, who knows? But the first step is going to be automation.
Excellent. Well, I think that's our time up now. But thank you so much for joining us today, David. David will be with us for the rest of this afternoon. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to grab him in our break or after our session finishes today. Thanks very much.
Thanks.